Hi, this is Reggie Mara. It's October 28th, 2025. And what I'd like to do is go into a bit of detail um, on the idea of collective national shadow. For context about this collective national shadow, it might be useful to listen to or watch the October 23rd, 2025 video, where I provided a summary of some historical and current events that are interrelated nowadays in the United States. And also, one mistake I made in that October 23rd video was to say that the Project 2025 folks vetted people who wanted to work in the federal government for Donald Trump and basically asked them to pledge loyalty to Trump rather than to the US Constitution. What I said in the previous video was rather than to the US Congress. So I said Congress rather than Constitution, which is an egregious mistake considering that nowadays those two words seem to have nothing to do with each other. But I digress. So shadow. Shadow in the Jungian sense is that which an individual, an organization, or a nation denies about itself, and that typically others can see. So people who are close to me, who are in my family, or my close friends, can see things about me that I don't know or acknowledge. And typically, when we have shadow, we project it onto others. So if I think that I never get angry or I'm not angry, I'll notice a lot of other very angry people out there. So there's a lot more to shadow than just that, but that's the basis of it. So it's not yet in my consciousness. It's not yet in a national consciousness, and yet it's projected onto others. So we're not violent, they're violent. Okay. We don't discriminate against genders or races. Other people do that. That's an example of shadow. So collective shadow refers to a shadow that is inhabited by large numbers of people, not every person. So not every person in the United States, not every one of our 340 million people, give or take, has the same shadow. We all have some element of shadow. But what we're speaking about is that collective shadow that's inhabited, or that inhabits, is probably a better way to say it, tens of millions of Americans. And again, not every citizen denies the same things, but we all have some things that we deny. So I can prove, in other words, any good faith observer will not be able to refute that the collective national shadow of the United States has at least the following 9 traits. And those are ignorance, arrogance, fear, bigotry, violence, greed, excess, bullying, and untrustworthiness. In future videos, I'll show examples of those. For now, you'll have to take my word for it or just look around and you'll see the evidence. Again, I'm going to say them one more time because it's important to make the point that the collective shadow of the United States has at least these 9 elements: ignorance, arrogance, fear, bigotry, violence, greed, excess, bullying, and untrustworthiness. And those are the things that many Americans deny collectively about the nation. Important to say that shadow doesn't equal person, or shadow doesn't equal nation. We're not saying the United States is all these things and nothing else. We're specifically saying that these are the aspects of the nation that some tens of millions of people deny about it. All right. So I'm not going to repeat that, but it's an important point. So some recent examples. We need look no further than 2 of the executive orders issued since January 20th, 2025 by the President of the United States, Donald Trump. One of them, which was issued on January 20th, was entitled Ending the Weaponization of the Federal Government. The language comes right out of Project 2025. If you haven't read that document yet, yes, it's 900 some odd pages, but if you want to know what you're up against, it's worthwhile reading it. And honestly, I haven't finished it yet, but I've skimmed the whole thing and I've read big chunks in some great detail. So an executive order stating that the federal government is going to end the weaponization of the federal government. And since January 20th, 2025, the federal government has weaponized itself against its perceived opponents internationally, nationally, and even Donald Trump's personal enemies and perceived opponents. And he's done that through the Department of Justice with the fealty of Pam Bondi, who is the Attorney General, and Kash Patel, who runs the FBI, and others. Neither Bondi nor Patel can weaponize the government on their own. They need underlings to carry out their orders. So that's one example. A second example is a March 27th, 2025 executive order from Donald Trump that speaks about restoring truth and sanity to American history. And if you read that executive order, it's actually doublespeak. It's right out of George Orwell, and it speaks about previous administrations, especially the Biden administration and the Obama administrations, hating America and saying things about America that aren't true, and they're going to take all of that stuff out of American history. The Trump administration will remove all those lies and restore American history to show how great America is. Again, I'm paraphrasing, but I strongly suggest if you're interested in exposing the collective national shadow of the United States, you need to read some of these documents. Don't listen to what some news commentator, left, right, or center, says about them. Read them yourselves. Again, January 20th, ending the weaponization of the federal government. March 27th, restoring truth and sanity to American history. And that's happening in states around the country, in education, in museums, in various places of culture where American history is being, and excuse the expression, but it's actually accurate, is being whitewashed. It's removing the idea that, in fact, there was enslavement, in fact, that there was a genocide of Native Americans, and that this land was taken from them through deceit and violence. And that's being removed and denied. That's a great is not a great word there, but that's an example of shadow. And then across the board, and this includes on the White House website right now, another example of shadow, there's a counter, a clock up on top, and it reads, quote, "The Democrats have shut down the government for," and then it says how many days, hours, and minutes, and it's constantly counting. All right, so that's obviously a projection because the Democrats haven't shut down the government. The United States Congress has shut down the government with the blessing and or orders from the president. So both the Republicans and the Democrats in Congress have agreed to shut down the government because their particular needs and desires are seen as being more important than keeping the government open. So again, Congress has shut down the government with the encouragement and blessing of the Trump administration. The Democrats have not done that themselves, right? So it's just several current examples of shadow, of denial and projection. There are many, many more, and I will get into them when we get into some of the foundational subjugations of the country and as we move into current events more specifically. Finally, the collective shadow of the United States emerges through an unhealthy, that's an important word there, an unhealthy iteration of masculine energy in a virtual absence of healthy feminine energy. Now, it's important to say that I didn't just say that masculine energy is unhealthy and that feminine energy is healthy. Both masculine energy and feminine energy can manifest in healthy or unhealthy ways. But the collective shadow of the United States, historically and currently, emerges through an unhealthy iteration of masculine energy in an absence of the healthy feminine. I'll say more about the specifics of masculine, feminine, healthy, and unhealthy in the next video. For now, you have some homework to do. Go ahead and read those two executive orders and take a look at the counter that's appearing on the top of many federal websites, which is the first time in my knowledge, and I may be missing something, that the president and the government has weaponized the federal government, which represents all Americans, has weaponized their websites for political purposes, accusing the party that's out of power for being to blame for something. All right. And in a future video, we'll speak about developmental worldviews and the dangers of us versus them worldviews that have characterized not only American history, but the history of the planet. But we'll get into that in future videos. So thank you for tuning in. Again, this is Reggie Mara speaking today specifically about the idea of shadow and collective national shadow. And I will look forward to being with you again in the future. It is October 28th, 2025. Thank you again for listening.